Grok Talk.
Welcome back to Grok Talk. We have Mike on the phone. We have Skip over in front of his laptop. We have me and Bill O'Brien's here for his segment. He arrived a little bit early. I got to figure out which headset Bill is on. Say hi, Bill.
Hi.
Hi. There we go. Yep, we found you. Okay.
Right.
Grok Talk brought to you by GraniteGrok.com, New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, and the coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. Visit them at cnht.org.
And we at GraniteGrok.com.
And we at GraniteGrok.
Yeah, and we still continue on because I just paid the server bill.
Oh, good. Good. All right, so we're good for at least another month.
Yep.
GraniteGrok.com. Check out all the stories. Lots of news, lots of opinion, lots of interesting things going on. Not always the things you want us to talk about, but that could be your fault because you didn't tell us. We sometimes just miss stuff, or there's too much going on, or we don't have enough time in the day. And if you have a link or a story and you want to bring it to our attention, you can email us at nameofblogger, Skip, Steve, Mike. I know you can't email Mike at GraniteGrok.com, but at GraniteGrok.com.
Or Grokwatch.
Or Grokwatch, yes. You
Which
could
is
also
the preferred
email
way.
Grokwatch at GraniteGrok.com, and I'll get the story and the lead, and if you write it, I'll post it for you under your name. Yes. You get the byline. So,
although sometimes in the comments, people get very brusque and very adamant and very angry when they want us to write about stuff that doesn't interest us at all. Yeah. My only response is, get your own blog.
Yeah. What's wrong? You don't know how to write?
Yeah, we are not a public utility. We write basically on what amuses us.
You pay the server bill? We'll talk.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
And somebody was asking me the other day, Skip, why you don't run for office. I think we just discovered the reason why.
What's that? I'm willing to tell people off?
Yeah.
Not enough diplomacy.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I made a promise to my wife a long time ago. The highest office that I would run for was budget committee in my town. Although once she gave me the authority to go ahead and run for county commissioner, because that would have been a paying gig. It pays much more than in the New Hampshire House of Representatives.
Yeah, we get good 1880 wages.
But it's a case where the most esteemed wife is disabled, so I am the breadwinner. So that's basically the reason why I don't run, because I have to work. If I didn't have to work, trust me, I'd have so much fun.
The demographics of the New Hampshire legislature are a perfect example of how there's no perfect solutions to anything. And if you're a Democrat seeking utopia, you never get it. You just plague us with your attempts to get to it. Because what happens is we don't pay anybody anything to be there. And so you end up getting a lot of young people, older people, people with indulgent spouses. And you don't get working people there. On the other hand, if you paid them, then you'd get careerists who are there who would be much more interested in their paycheck than the people's business. So there's no easy answers, and there's no perfect answers.
Well, I would rather have it the way it is now. The only thing that I take exception to, and we did find one person who was an illegal alien receiving welfare and was advocating for amnesty in the way that the state of New Hampshire was being run, and we ran her out to where she resigned. That was a few years ago.
It was a trifecta of ills, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was, everybody says that, especially with men, as they get older, they want to know that they've left a mark and something more than just a blood spot on the street. And I am very proud to say Granite Grok has been there from the conservative side, and that we have made differences from time to time. Certainly we made a big difference in supporting you, to which I will always be proud of.
And I appreciate that, and I do appreciate that. I think that particular state representative sort of left the area, if I'm not mistaken.
Left the state, too.
She was gone.
Yeah.
She to use a term that I've always thought is a little bit wonkish, but she's self-deported.
Yeah, when we found out she was on welfare and then advocating for more welfare, I went, this shall not pass. Yeah. At the risk of sounding like Gandalf.
Well, that's one way to get a paycheck from the government and serve in the House, I guess.
Yeah, yes, she was getting paid more than you, Bill.
Well, wait a minute. Was I going to be Speaker then? Because I would have got that 25% raise to $125 a year, which I tried to explain to my wife at the time.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So, but that's the basic reason. If I was to win the lottery, You can believe in a heartbeat I'd be self-funding and I wouldn't care. I would have
Well,
so
at some
much fun.
point, in your later years, when you get to be a middle-aged or even older person, we can
Middle age.
we can get
Bill,
you up there to.
have you seen the color of my hair lately? This
Yes,
is
but
not middle age.
To quote Emily Sandblade, who was here last week, she said I'm late middle age.
I heard that remark.
Oh, I don't know. I think 60 is the new 30. I'm not pretty sure.
I'm not that far from 60. Trust me.
Okay, so then you're going into your 30s. So. At any rate, so that means that I'm going to be leaving. I won't be running again, but obviously I want good people to come and follow us there, and you should be one of them.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate those kind words. I'd fit in like a lead balloon with all the Democrats. And the rhinos.
We would expect nothing less.
Right. You would have to be on Murderer's Row. No place else for you.
Yeah.
And I would be bringing the Eye of Sauron with me.
So have you ever explained to your listeners what Murderer's Row is in the
I think
Hampshire
we
House?
did. I was trying to. I mean, you can explain it better than I probably did, but we had a discussion about it back in January.
So just quick on the background, as was usual practice, the New Hampshire House Republicans, in trying to organize this session, had a caucus, a pre-session caucus, and voted the person to be Speaker. Tradition has always been that person, if you're in the majority, gets the majority of the votes when the House organizes. But we had one of the more moderate, or some might even call liberal, Republicans join with every single Democrat, it appears. Perhaps not everyone, but two or three might have departed. And voted with a minority of Republicans and voted this person as Speaker. Now, seeing that I was the elected leader of the House caucus, what he did, which I think he was trying to punish us, but it actually turned out to be kind of a lot of fun. He took a lot of the real conservatives, people who were supporting me, and he strung us out in the longest row in the Hampshire House. And so there's 13, 14 of us in this row, and immediately we began calling it Murderer's Row from the old batting order of, what was the 1926 Yankees?
Yes.
Was Murderer's Row. And so he ended up, I think, getting what he didn't want, which was a concentration of the conservatives willing to challenge him at every turn.
Well, good for you. Good for you.
So it was like a lot of things. There's unintended consequences in the legislature, and that's one of them.
So you won't be running for the New Hampshire House of Representatives again?
No, I've been. This is my 5th term, and quite frankly, Skip, it shocks me that I've been up there 5 terms. I think we should go up there, try to do what we can, and then get out of there for the next group of people to come along.
And I think that's, believe it or not, I believe that's the right way to do it. As Doug Lambert, who was my co-founder of Granite Rock, used to say, the whole idea of American representative democracy is the citizen farmer out in the fields laying down his tools and then serving, doing his time, and then immediately coming back and picking up those self-same tools and proceeding along with their American lives.
And there's that idea, which is you bring your community and common sense sensibilities up there, and you work on some issues, and then you leave for a while. And even in the New Hampshire legislature, we have members who have been up there 30 years. We have the chairman of finance, for example, Neil Kirk, who came there in his 30s and is now in his later 60s and all, and so still at it, and we have Gene Chandler is 16th or 18th term up there. Again, came in his early 30s and is now in his 60s, and it's just one perspective says, well, that's great. How much of his life is he dedicated to the people in New Hampshire, and that's good. On the other hand, you become institutionalized,
yes.
And plus, as you've spent so much time voting on legislation that controls the life of others, it almost seems invariable that they begin to think, I know more than the others. We had a state senator this past week in the budget debate said that the role of legislatures is to make people better.
Sharon Carson.
Who said what?
Sharon Carson.
Sharon Carson.
It's up on the blog site. someplace.
Oh, but I got to put it on my progressives in the proper.
It's up there. You'll find it. All you got to do is go to Facebook and look for it. You'll find it's everywhere.
Well, and that's
I need a note. Give me a piece of paper,
that's
please.
That's just basically was sort of a
And
probably
she's
from
been
her
there for a
perspective
while,
an
you know.
unduly candid. She's been there
Yeah.
for a while, and an unduly candid remark on her part, rather than what I think some of us says that the role of government is just prevent anarchy and then leave people alone.
Mm-hmm.
She thinks that, and a lot of folks who've been up there for a while think, we just know how to run society and run people's lives better than they know how to run their own lives.
Well,
And that's bad. We should get out of there.
Well, that's
It
what
is,
New Hampshire State Rep Jim Webb has said the same thing. The purpose of legislation is to mandate behavior, and that's wrong. That is absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
And in fact,
Well, that actually is the purpose of legislature, but in his legislation, but in the context, he implied that it was his job to run your life with legislation, which is not exactly the same thing, but...
Well, no, I might be wrong about the context of Senator Carson's remark, but I think it might have had to do with legalization of marijuana or decriminalization of marijuana. And I've always thought when we look at our criminal laws, what we ought to be doing is not outlawing normative behavior. There's a significant number of people who choose to use marijuana for recreational purposes, medicinal purposes, recreational. I'm not. I think it's a stupid thing to do. I think we have enough that we can do that will harm our life without, turning to marijuana to do it. But you want to know what? That's personal to me. And other people can live productive lives and non-disruptive lives by using marijuana. It's not for us to shape them. If they're not harming anyone else, it's not for us to say, that's not my choice, therefore it shouldn't be your choice.
Mike?
Yeah. Guys? Yeah. So, two things there. So first of all, on the role of government, I believe is the role of the constitutions and the legislatures, the laws, to restrain the worst excesses of human nature, which is exactly what our Constitution was designed to do, which is to prevent people that were essentially drunk with the pursuit of power from taking complete control of the country. And secondly, what Bill says is, I believe that we should punish the behavior, not the possession. You can use any substance you want, but as soon as you go out there and harm someone, that's an actionable offense.
Correct. And I didn't mean to besmirch Senator Carson's record overall based on one statement, and I wasn't trying to put words in her mouth or intent, but she did say it, and it will be taken that way. And I think it is more of an effect of what we were talking about. When you're there for so long, you spend your day in and day out trying to craft rules for society, and it begins to become this idea in your head that that's what you're there for.
And unfortunately, we hear that all too often. Now, even though I am not blogging right now, I am making some bookmarks. And the EPA head administrator, Gina McCarthy, said the last couple of days over the new Clean Water Act that, and I'm going to paraphrase here, that government is supposed to lead the way, point the direction, and then everyone else in the free market is supposed to figure out how to make that happen. And that's a very dangerous precedent because it puts government over the people instead of the free market or the individual citizen saying, I've got a great idea, I'm going to go after it, period, instead of working just within the strictures of what government says has to be done.
And so we see that on the left. And I always think in this context of a famous statement that was made, I don't know, almost 60 years ago now, over 60 years ago now. And it was made by a German leader. I think it was Walter Ulbricht was the communist leader of East Germany, and there was a little bit of a rebellion. I think it was in 1953 in East Germany, and they had to put it down. And so somebody asked him, "What's going on?" And he said, "Well, we just have to get a better people." And so there's always this effort on the left to get a better people, because if you are seeking utopia, you're going to find out that people don't agree with your definition and don't conform with your goals as to what utopia should be. So there's always this effort to criminalize what you see as a deviation from that.
All right, we're going to take a minute. Be right back. Stay tuned.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.